वेरी गुड मॉर्निंग डियर फ्रेंड्स और आप सबको गुरु पूर्णिमा की हार्दिक शुभकामनाएं।
गुड मॉर्निंग सर।
गुड मॉर्निंग।
आपको भी मुबारक हो सर।
हाँ जी, हाँ जी।
Morning,
सो
sir.
फ्रेंड्स, लेट अस recall what.
Morning, sir.
Yes, thank you ma'am. So
Hi.
as you know that this course began on Monday. We had two sessions, one on online evaluation tools and another on free and open software platforms for paper setting. And yesterday we had three sessions in which during the first session we had carried out one task on present system of evaluation being followed in your state, followed by the concept of evaluation, the types of evaluation, the characteristics of good evaluation tool, that is the validity and reliability, followed by techniques of evaluation. And yesterday in the afternoon, Professor P.K. Tulsi shared with you why to write learning outcomes and how to write learning outcome, what are the various levels under cognitive domain, and so on. So today we are going to share with you one of the most important aspect of student evaluation, that is the measurement of student performance in affective domain. Affective domain is concerned with attitudes, feelings, interest, values, etc. And as far as teaching of affective domain is concerned, teacher says that it is not their job. It is the job of the parents, or it is the job of the duty of the mandir, gurdwara, masjid, and so on. Likewise, the teacher says that it is not our duty to measure the behavior, the attitude of the students. Friends, let me tell you that the broad aim of education in general and of technical education in particular is the harmonious development of learners. So developing harmoniously means developing their capabilities in intellect and non-intellect areas. So these areas are concerned with knowledge, skills, and attitude. Okay, so all the three components are very important. Not only that the student must possess the adequate knowledge and he is able to, you see, uh, carry out certain activities or perform experiments. Attitude is equally important. Friends, your attitude contributes to your success. And a study which was attributed to Harvard University, that study found that when a person gets a job or promotion, 85% of the time it is because of his or her attitude, and only 15% of the time it is because of his or her intelligence or knowledge of specific facts and figures and so on. So कितनी हैरानी वाली बात है कि हम 100% पुट इन करते हैं नॉलेज के लिए और स्किल के लिए, लेकिन उसकी कंट्रीब्यूशन सिर्फ 15% है, और जबकि एटीट्यूड को वी इग्नोर और उसका जो कंट्रीब्यूशन है वो 85% है. दैट इज व्हाई आई सेड दैट योर एटीट्यूड कंट्रीब्यूट्स टू योर सक्सेस. सो knowledge, skill, and attitude. When I say knowledge, knowledge means what does someone need to know in order to do a job. That is the theory. The student must possess the adequate knowledge. Skill, what does the person need to be able to do? So skill involves hand and head coordination. Okay, say verification of Ohm's law, even say putting entries in a ledger, it is also a skill. Okay, and the attitude, that is what sort of approach to his or her work does a person doing that job need to have. Very important. So this session is about measuring behavior or measuring student performance in affective domain. So let me share my PPT. So measuring learning outcomes in affective domain. Uh, when I say domain, knowledge, skill, and attitude, each of these domains of each of these areas, I would say, is called as domain. Uh, Knowledge, cognitive domain. Dr. Tulsi uh, uh, has already discussed the 6 levels of cognitive domain, starting with remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and finally creating. The psychomotor domain is concerned with hand and head coordination, and it has got uh, 5 levels, starting with imitation, manipulation, precision, articulation, and naturalization. And attitude, that is the affective domain. So we will study the affective domain in this particular area in this session. So as the performances in the affective domain or attitudinal domain involve the observation and demonstration of feelings, sensitivities, interpersonal relationships, attitudes, values, ideas, etc. And they are often difficult to measure because they sometimes cannot be easily, you see, uh, seen. So the different levels of affective domain we will study in this particular session. And before that, let us have a look at the attitude first. So what we mean by attitude? Attitude is nothing but, I would say, the evaluative statements, either favorable or unfavorable concerning objects, people, or events. When I say that I like my job, it means I'm expressing my attitude about work. When the other person feels underpaid by the organization, reflects his or her feelings about his or her pay. So people develop certain attitudes and tend to make decisions based upon their attitude. So attitude is the most important word, I would say, in English dictionary. It applies to every sphere of life, including one's personal and professional life. Why I say a very important word in English language? Because if you uh, 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 you look at this word attitude, if you count all the alphabets, it will come out to be 100, whereas knowledge and skill will be less. So attitude is 100%, very important. An attitude is a psychological tendency that is expressed by evaluating a particular, I would say, entity with some degree of favor or disfavor. It is a general and enduring positive or negative feeling about some person, about some object, or some issue. Attitudes are required from parents, teachers, and even uh, peer group members. We observe the way family and friends behave, and we shape our attitudes and behavior to align with theirs. You see, people imitate the attitudes of popular individuals or those they admire and respect. Okay. For example, if the right thing is to favor eating at McDonald's, you are likely to hold that attitude. That is why many organizations, many business organizations have taken the help of our, you see, popular actors, hero, heroines, और स्पोर्ट्स पर्सन, और उनसे बहुत सारे प्रोडक्ट्स जो है वो एंडोर्स करते हैं, और उन्होंने जो एडवर्टाइजिंग एजेंसीज हैं, उन्होंने हमारी साइकोलॉजी जो है वो पहचान लिया है, और बहुत सारी सेल में प्रमोशन हुआ है. So let us have a look at the factors that determine our attitudes. Okay, so if I ask you, are we born with attitudes, or develop them as we mature. So, what are the factors that form our attitude? Firstly, it is the environment. So, we'll begin with home environment. It is positive environment or negative environment. Positive and negative environment both influences a child's you see mental well-being. So क्योंकि पहले बच्चा घर में जो है वो अपने पेरेंट्स को, अपने ब्रदर सिस्टर को देखता है, ठीक है. Then he or she enters school and college, so there is peer pressure. Then he joins work, some organization, whether there is supportive superior or overcritical superior. Likewise, media, including TV, newspaper, magazines, radio, films, all these influence our attitude, our culture background, or our religious background, traditional beliefs, okay, or social environment, political environment, okay. This is one factor, the most important. Second one, experiences. You see, our behavior changes according to our experiences with various people, isn't it? If we have a positive experience with a person, our attitude towards him or her is likely to be positive, and vice versa. And then the education, किस लेवल तक की आपने करी है, किस स्कूल से या कॉलेज से करी है, कौन से टीचर ने उनको पढ़ाया, उनका एटीट्यूड कैसा था, ठीक है ना. अगर से मैं आई एंटर द क्लास with smiling face and I enter the class with a positive attitude that I am going to enjoy my students, definitely that will reflect from my face. तो स्टूडेंट जो हैं वो भी उसको enjoy करेंगे. लेकिन अगर मैं एंटर करता हूँ इस एटीट्यूड में, ओह टुडे अगेन दिस ए क्लास, okay, so that shows your, you see, attitude towards your subject, towards your students, toward the classroom, and so many things. So education is also very important, and a person can have thousands of attitude. कोई उसमें से मैं एक आधा एग्जांपल देता हूँ. से एटीट्यूड ऑफ ग्रेटिट्यूड. What is that? Means thank everybody. Thank you implies both recognition and gratitude even for the smallest work carried out. टीचर ने अगर क्लासरूम में मान लीजिए उसकी पेन का कैप नीचे गिर गया and some student has given to him back, he should say thank you. और thank you के साथ उसका नाम भी अगर बुलाया जाए, if I say thank you Ramesh ji, if the student has answered a question correctly, you must say thank you Ramesh ji, you have said very rightly, you are wonderful, okay. So remembering the names of your student, because a person remembering the name and calling him or her by his name, because a person's name is to him or her the most important and most sweetest sound. तो अगर देखिए कई चीजें मैं इनडायरेक्टली जो है वो स्टूडेंट को अपनी अपने बिहेवियर से जो है वो प्रेजेंट करता हूँ. So that is why I said a person can have thousands of attitude. Now, what are the benefits of a positive attitude? There are many advantages to having a positive attitude. The advantages you can see very easily, but what is easy to see is also easy to miss. Now, what are the advantage to an individual? It makes for a pleasing personality. आपका एटीट्यूड पॉजिटिव है आपके आपके पीयर्स के प्रति, आपके जो है आपके अपने सब्जेक्ट के प्रति, उसके फेस से हमेशा स्माइल जो है वो आएगी. इट इज एनर्जाइजिंग, दैट इंक्रीजेस योर एंजॉयमेंट ऑफ लाइफ, इंस्पायर्स अदर्स अराउंड यू, and it also helps you become a contributing member of society and in fact an asset to the country. And what are the benefits of a positive attitude for organization? Increases productivity, profitability, fosters teamwork, better relation with colleagues, improves quality, makes for a congenial atmosphere, reduces stress, so breeds loyalty. So people with negative attitudes have a hard time keeping friendship, jobs, even marriages, relationship. Negative attitude lead to bitterness, resentment, a purposeless life, ill health, high stress level for themselves and for others. हम कहते हैं ना ब्लड प्रेशर हो गया. ब्लड प्रेशर इज नॉट ए डिजीज, इट इज बिकॉज ऑफ आवर एटीट्यूड. अगर हम हमेशा एंजॉय करते हैं, खुश रहते हैं, so that will solve many of your mental and health problems. Now coming to the categories of affective domain. So there are 5 levels of affective domain: the receiving, responding, valuing, organization, and characterization by value set. Now let us have a look at these 5 levels one by one. Firstly, receiving. You see, when you deliver information, you want to make your students at the receiving end. It means you need to gain their attention. If you are not uh, you are not able to gain their attention, naturally they will not be able to receive the information which you are presenting to them. So for this, use stimulus variation. Never stand stationary at one place in the classroom. Bring purposeful movements. Use meaningful gestures. Change your, pitch, tone of your voice. Change in interaction pattern. आप कुछ बोल रहे हैं, now you stop a little and ask one question or invite some question. Now they will participate. Maintain an eye contact. Okay. Uh, provide varied learning, experiences to the student, not only chalk and talk. You can write something, you can draw something on the board, you can bring ppt, you can show videos. और आज के context में many videos are available on YouTube. Now your role as a teacher is to identify the right video, note the link. You can provide that link to the students in their WhatsApp. They can see that, they can watch that video in the classroom. So receiving means that learners are willing to attend to certain stimuli. So here the purpose is to develop an awareness of or willingness to receive certain stimuli such as the aesthetic factors of a subject. जैसे मैंने कल आपको एक उदाहरण दिया था. You will not begin your lecture by saying, today my topic is this, today I am going to talk to you about this thing, today I will discuss. No, 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 no. You need to explain the reason. Because when you enter the classroom, students want to know why they are sitting in the classroom. So the why part of that topic must be uh, presented at the very beginning. So it means you need to explain why this topic is important. What what you will gain after learning this particular topic. So simple awareness to selective attention. तो स्टूडेंट का जो 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 बिहेवियर है वो कैसा होगा? He will follow, he will describe, reply, select, ask. So at this stage, we are creating their interest. When he listens to you with attention, he shows awareness, he watches demonstration with care, and he shows sensitivity. So once these students are able to receive the information, definitely they will respond. So the second level is responding. So when you ask question, uh, the student doesn't answer, it means he has not received you completely. Okay, so responding तभी होगी जब उसने अच्छे से आपको रिसीव किया. रिसीविंग के बाद रिस्पॉन्डिंग है. So that involves active participation on the part of the learner. So the learner attends and usually reacts to stimuli or happening in the classroom or in the workshop. So the learning outcome is that willingness to respond, that is, he reads voluntarily, satisfaction in responding, that is, he reads for pleasure, does extra work, and develops personal interest. So he answers, he assists, he complies, conforms, tells, writes. So these are the behavioral terms which can be used to describe the level of responding. So at this stage, the learner would start appreciating the importance of the topic. पहले हमने interest किया, now he is appreciating, means he is responding. When he obey rules, he takes active part in the classroom, he completes assignment on time, he finishes experiment, he asks question, he volunteers for extra duties, or he follows safety regulations, and above all, he seems to be enjoying. Now then, the third level is valuing. Okay, the worth or value a learner places on a particular object, happening, or behavior. So learner displays behavior with a single belief, that is attitude, in situations where he or she is not forced to obey or forced to comply. So learning outcome is that consistent and stable behavior, because he accepts, he provides, he gives preferences, and becomes committed. So what he does, he initiates, he invites, proposes, shares, selects. यहाँ इस स्टेज पे, बिकॉज ही स्टार्ट्स वैल्यूइंग कि कौन सा इंपॉर्टेंट है कौन सा नहीं, सो उसका एटीट्यूड जो है दैट रिफ्लेक्ट्स. So he appreciates the course, he values hard work, demonstrates commitment, shows interest. Then, because there is some conflict as far as attitudes are concerned, मेरा attitude towards something is different, मेरे friend का different है, तो learner के mind में conflict हो रहा है, which one is right. Learner brings together different values and resolves conflict between them. So that is, he becomes committed to a set of कि मेरा तो यही value system है, and he tries to display that in his or her behavior. So he becomes committed to a set of values. Learning outcome is that learner becomes a responsible person and develops a reliable philosophy. So he adheres to, alters, arranges, organizes, prepares. यहाँ वो value करता है कि भी किसको मेरी he prepares a list of his own values. So he accepts personal responsibility. He recognizes the responsibility of his peers, and then he knows own strengths and weaknesses. He formulates sensible plan for future. Okay. Last stage is characterizing. That is, learner behavior becomes consistent with internalized value and develops a characteristic lifestyle. जब हम गांधी का नाम देते हैं तो हमारे माइंड में एक ही वैल्यू सिस्टम आता है, अहिंसा. ओके, क्योंकि उन्होंने पूरी लाइफ नॉन वायलेंस के ऊपर अब सेक्रीफाइस कर दी. अगर हम मदर टेरेसा का नाम लेते हैं तो हमारे माइंड में एक पर्टिकुलर कैरेक्टरिस्टिक उसकी लाइफस्टाइल आती है. सो द लर्निंग आउटकम इज दैट लर्नर बिहेवियर becomes reliable, which is typical and characteristics of the learner. For example, say आप ट्रैफिक में जा रहे हैं, you are driving a car, and committing to the traffic lights becomes your lifestyle. Okay, चाहे पुलिस वाला खड़ा है चाहे नहीं खड़ा, रेड लाइट होगी, you will stop there. Okay, आप हर रोज 9 बजे आते हैं, कभी भी 9 से 2 मिनट ऊपर या पहले नहीं आए, पूरे 9 बजे आते हैं, तो आपके कुलीग आपको देख के अपनी घड़ियां जो है वो करेक्ट करते हैं. ओके, यू आर वेरी पंक्चुअल. very regular, and so on. So displays, influences, modifies, practices, qualifies, और यहाँ पर उसकी philosophy of life आपकी बन जाती है. When you show reliable awareness of safety, demonstrate reliability. Reliability मैंने कल आपको बताया था. You demonstrate industriousness, punctuality. You exercise self-discipline. You cooperate with others. You show independence. You show self-reliance, and you practice a characteristic, and that is why that is your reasonable lifestyle. So receiving means your passive attention of student, which results in memorizing and recall. That is receiving. He is receiving. जब आप लेक्चर शुरू करते हैं, आप इम्पोर्टेंस बताते हैं, he is passive. But जब वो रिसीव कर लिया, he tries to respond, so he gives his active participation. That further reinforces learning. The student attaches value to the knowledge gained, be it a piece of information or phenomena. The student gains the ability to put forth information in a meaningful manner by organizing, comparing, and relating. And finally, the student develops a belief or attaches a value to something which impacts his or her work behavior. Now, why testing under affective domain? First of all, let me compare between cognitive versus affective domain. When I asked you who is the present Prime Minister of India, only if you respond Mr. Narendra Modi are you correct. Now let me ask another question. Do you like mathematics? Unlike the first question, this second question doesn't have a unique correct answer which can be designated in advance. Why? Because for matters of personal preference, the correct answer is not the same for everyone. Do you like mathematics? Rather, the question could be rephrased so that different degrees of preference or liking can be assessed. मैं उसको rephrase करता. पहले था do you like mathematics? Now I say how well do you like to study mathematics? So there could be 5 responses. Hate it, dislike it, indifferent, like it, love it. The 5 response categories could then be scored 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let me give you another example. Have you read any book just for fun this semester? So combining with a knowledge aspect and an affective component, the desired response yes may be correct or incorrect. The student either did or did not read such a book, but it may be difficult to verify the validity of the statement. So the correct answer may not be the ideal answer. The correct answer to an affective question depends upon the person queried. The correct answer to a cognitive question is the same for all respondent. वो मैंने आपको बताया knowledge वाले domain में correct answer should be same for every individual, लेकिन यहाँ नहीं है. So teachers, even test developers, they are sometimes accused of overemphasizing cognitive learning with consequent neglect of the affective determiners of the behavior. Some people believe most teachers are preoccupied with what their students know. Students, they say, are most concerned with what they like or dislike and how they feel. So such viewpoints are not without foundation. Feeling, you see, is as real and as important a part of human nature as is knowing. How we feel is almost always more important to us than what we know, and how we behave is a very important concern for those with whom we share our lives. So, affect and cognition are not independent aspects of the personality, they are part of our life. They are the two sides of one coin. How we feel about a person, how we feel about a problem or an event depends in part on what we know about it. So now let us learn why testing affective domain is important. Traditionally, technical education has been primarily concerned with cognitive and psychomotor learning. मैंने आपको पहले बोला, thereby developing a lopsided personality in the students. There is affective behavior that should be of concern to every teacher, every administrator, every parent, every learner, and even prospective employers. We feel that since the affected disposition of learner has direct relevance to his ability to learn, his interest in learning, his attitude toward the value of technical education, industry in general, classroom teacher in particular. So these should know something about affective measurement, especially the attitude part. Uh, Quite often, learning difficulties are related to, you see, uh, a learner's attitude. How frequently we, you see, hear about, you see, Mohan is a bright boy, but he just is not interested in polytechnic. I wonder what's wrong with Ramesh. He's above average in ability, and though he performs poorly in applied sciences, he does very well in mechanics. Suresh is very interested in applied chemistry but despises applied mathematics. Likewise, there are many instances in the institution in which students, you see, do not submit assignment in time. Sometimes they come late in the class. Some students do not obey the rules. Some students work beyond their abilities. Some students rarely work to achieve the goals set by the teacher. Some students get along, others in a group work. Some students are not cooperating. Some are not appreciating. Some are not showing any interest. And above all, some are not motivated. So, is it not conceivable that if teachers had a better understanding of a learner's affective behavior as well as good knowledge of his cognitive and psychomotor domain, so some learning difficulties could be minimized or eliminated by correcting the learner's, you see, uh, I would say inferiority complex. Now, dearth of affective measurement. Friends, despite increased attention to the teaching and of then measurement of affecting behavior within the past decade, interest in some of the affective components of student behavior like attitude, values, beliefs is still relatively, I would say, weak in comparison to cognitive behavior. Why? Because there are many reasons, both which are teacher related and technical education system, that have inhibited appropriate emphasis on affective measurement, thereby resulting in this affective domain assuming a secondary role in technical education. Let us have a look at the reasons why we are not taking into consideration of measurement of affective domain. Firstly, the lack of a systematic approach to measure affect. You see, although there are many locally constructed attitude scales that that are available, but unfortunately do not have a sound theoretical rationale. So, as a teacher, you need to know how to construct an attitude scale or behavior scale. So, uh, second is uh, some teachers do not want to become involved in teaching of attitude as well as measurement of attitude. They say that these should have been taught in the school, home, mandir, gurdwara, church, and not in polytechnic or engineering college. Because the teachers feel that only cognitive or the psychomotor skill should be taught in the technical institution. मैंने आपको बोला था कि ये नहीं है, आप अपने इनडायरेक्टली अपने बिहेवियर से बहुत कुछ जो है वो सिखाते हैं. तो कल भी आपने कुछ बोला था कि हम जो है कुछ क्राइटेरिया 5 मार्क्स रखते हैं इंटरनल असेसमेंट में उसके बिहेवियर के लिए, पॉजिटिव है, नेगेटिव है, whether he cooperates with peers, he is regular, he is punctual, ये सारी चीज़ें आपने बोली थी. Okay, then lack of time. Many teachers claim that they are occupied with the cognitive load as well as other extracurricular activities, so they don't get any time for the teaching and as well as for the measurement of the affective domain. Lack of faith in the validity and reliability of affective measures. Many teachers say that affective behavior cannot be measured by paper pencil test. And secondly, affective scales are highly susceptible to फेकिंग एंड रिस्पॉन्स सेट. क्योंकि मैंने जैसे बोला ना, कल आपको बताया था बिहेवियर रेटिंग स्केल 5 पॉइंट स्केल है. स्ट्रांगली एग्री, एग्री, इनडिफरेंट, डिसएग्री, स्ट्रांगली डिसएग्री. तो इसमें जो है स्टूडेंट में हाइड हिज और हर रियल चॉइस. बिकॉज मान लीजिए आपने ग्रुप में दे दिया तो पॉजिटिव स्टेटमेंट को हमेशा वो एग्री करेगा, नेगेटिव स्टेटमेंट को वो डिसएग्री करेगा, मींस वो दैट विल बिकम पॉजिटिव. Then the lack of knowledge about affective measurement on the part of teacher. Lack of awareness of the relationship between the affective traits and the learning. The teachers are not aware. Lack of knowledge about how to effectively utilize affective information in planning the teacher's instructional strategy. Artificiality of the situation is another problem that is inherent in the affective measurement. You see, many persons believe that the information provided by conventional self-report or observation techniques regarding an individual's affective behavior is not valid. They feel that because of the artificiality of the situation, any similarity between what a person says he would do in a real situation and what he actually does in that situation is purely coincidental. And we agree that considerable reliance must be placed on the inference. That is, the degree of our trust depends to a large extent on the individuals answering the question truthfully, which in turn depends upon the type of information requested. You see, the more personal, confidential, and potentially threatening the question asked, the greater is the likelihood of invalid responses. But you see, if proper rapport is established between the teacher and the student, if the student is shown how this information will be used to provide for maximal learning, and if the learners are assured of confidentiality of their responses, we feel that fairly reliable information can be uh, obtained. And another is that stability of affective outcome. It is also used as a reason by some teachers to de-emphasize the importance of affective measurement in classroom, because some teachers say that although attitudes tend to be quite stable in the adults, you see, they are very unstable in learners of 16 to 18 age group. Generally speaking, this may be the case. If so, this supports our belief that attitudes are amenable to change and therefore should be of concern to both to the classroom teacher. Now let us have a look at how to construct a behavior rating scale. So behavior rating scale, before you construct, first of all, this will involve the three steps. One is specifying the behaviors to be evaluated. Second would be describing these behaviors. Third would be designing the specific scale or yardstick. So firstly, specifying the behaviors to be evaluated. Now, what behaviors does a teacher want to evaluate depends upon what personal attributes the teacher is trying to enhance among the learners. These may involve things like self-control, self-direction, adjustment. In some cases, teacher will have some highly specified behavior goal. So the first step in constructing a behavior scale is to make a list of behaviors the teacher wants to evaluate. Let me uh, mention examples of certain behaviors which as a teacher I want to evaluate. Firstly, I want to evaluate whether the student has completed his or her work, cooperate with the teacher, work harmoniously with peers, demonstrate interest in learning, utilize the resources of classroom and institution, be neat and organized, participate actively and freely in the classroom processes, punctual in the classroom or laboratory, preserve the institute property, respect the superiors, and like that. So friends, it is not feasible to prepare a common list to suit the requirements of various types of teacher, because each teacher has his or her own specific objectives and priorities when it comes to listing the classroom behaviors. So this is the first step, that is specifying the behaviors. As a teacher, you want to evaluate, first of all, you have listed down the behavior. Now, the second step is to describe these behaviors. So the behaviors to be evaluated must be first of all specified. So they must be described in operational terms so that they can be judged with reasonable objectivity, reliability, consistency. Let me you see give you example. ये डिपेंड भी करता है कि आपने कितनी वेटेज देनी है उस पर्टिकुलर बिहेवियर को, उतने ही आप उसमें आइटम्स रखेंगे. फॉर एग्जांपल कंप्लीशन ऑफ वर्क पहला था हमारा, ठीक है ना, हमने किया था. तो यू कैन मेक द क्वेश्चन स्टेटमेंट लाइक was the classroom work completed in time, was the homework submitted when due, did the classroom performance indicate that the assignment had been completed, did things once started finish in the required form. So this is in regard to completion. ये मैंने example दिए. You can add more if you want to give more emphasis on, if you want to give more weightage to completion of work. Cooperation. You can describe this behavior. Did the learner help the teacher when asked? Did the learner maintain proper classroom decorum? Did the learner help his classmates? Did the learner share information or material with classmates? This is in regard to cooperation. Interest in learning. Did the learner exhibit knowledge not acquired in the institution? Did he exhibit curiosity to learn new things? Did he pay attention to the information presented? Did he try to learn about why and how of things rather than just accepting them? Resource utilization. ये भी हमने एक behavior रखा था. Now under this, the following questions can be included to describe the behavior in regard to resource utilization. Did he use specific resources when instructed? Did he or she use specific resources on his own initiative? Did he or she use resources other than those of the institute? Did he or she use resources to the best advantage, that is economical use of the resources? Then comes neatness and organization. Did the learner keep the work area neat when not in use? Did the learner keep himself neat? Did the learner help keeping the classroom neat? Did the learner organize work and material in a systematic way? In regard to participation, did the learner ask questions in the class? Did he or she answer questions posed by teacher? Did the learner volunteer for activities? Did the learner contribute material? Did the learner inform to class? In regard to obeying rules, did the learner observe punctuality? Did the learner observe safety measures? Did the learner return library books in time? Did the learner obey his teachers and superiors? So friends, once the behaviors are classified and described in operational terms, now the next question is, how much weightage should the teacher give to each of these sample behavior? For example, suppose you think that sample behavior 3, that is the interest in learning, is most important behavior in the list, and sample behavior 5, that is the neatness or organization, the least important. So as a teacher, you can assign corresponding weightages to reflect their importance by, you see, by including the number of items. Now the third step is designing the specific scale or yardstick. Now, what is a scale? Friends, scale is a numbered continuum where each number represents the degree of a particular quality, like acceptance, rejection, presence, or absence. Scale may have as few as 3 points or as many as 100 points. The most common rating scales are 3, 5, 7, and 9-point scales. More grade points introduce greater variations, while fewer points limit the possibility of the responses. So the scale must always have odd number to provide a middle point to reflect an undecided or down the middle you see judgment. And in the literature you will see many scales have been provided by Thurston. Likert scale. So Likert scale rating scale is outstanding, above average, average, below average, unsatisfactory. So you can give a rating of 5 to outstanding, 4 to above average, 3 to average, 2 to below average, 1 to unsatisfactory. You need to provide the direction at the top of the questionnaire. Okay. So now the 7 behaviors which we have listed, we can give you example. 1, never. 2, rarely. 3, occasionally. 4, frequently. 5, always. He completes work, so you have to give rating. He cooperates with teacher and classmates. He utilizes educational resources or institute resources. He exhibits interest in learning. He is neat and organized. He participates in classroom activities. He obeys his teacher. जैसे ये मैंने example लिया. तो इनके साथ आप राइट हैंड साइड में यू कैन मेक ए 5-point scale starting with never, rarely, occasionally, frequently, always. ओके अब जैसे मैंने ये सारी स्टेटमेंट जो हैं पॉजिटिव वे में लिखी हुई हैं, तो इसमें आप एक दो स्टेटमेंट नेगेटिव में भी लिख सकते हो. लाइक ही से यू कैन से ही नेवर यूटिलाइजेस एजुकेशन रिसोर्सेज. ही इज नॉट नीट एंड ऑर्गेनाइज. इसका मतलब ये हुआ कि स्टूडेंट को सब कुछ पढ़ना पड़ेगा, अदरवाइज वो ऑलवेज 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 को टिक करता जाएगा. सो एक अच्छा स्केल जो है उसमें 40 to 60% आइटम्स दे आर रिटन इन पॉजिटिव वे एंड रिमेनिंग इन द नेगेटिव वे. और जो पॉजिटिव स्टेटमेंट्स होंगी उनको हम 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 में स्कोर करेंगे, और जो नेगेटिव स्टेटमेंट होगी उनको हम नेवर को अगर उसने कहा तो 5, रियरली 4, ओकेजनली 3, फ्रिक्वेंटली 2, ऑलवेज 1. समझ गए ना. तो इस तरह से आपको ये जो है मान लीजिए 20 स्टेटमेंट बनाई है, तो एटलीस्ट 8 से 10 स्टेटमेंट जो वो आपने जंबल करनी, रैंडमली डालनी है, ताकि स्टूडेंट हैज टू यू सी रीड ईच एंड एवरी स्टेटमेंट. नाउ कमिंग टू यूजिंग you can say the behavior rating scale. So the behavior rating scale can be used to assess the student behavior in the classroom, because you know that we grade students on what they know and how they perform. So if we want to include student behavior as part of our sessional, we must measure it. Behavior rating scale can be used to diagnose and document the behavior difficulties. Okay, so that may require providing guidance and counseling or special services or even parental consultation and so on. This rating can be used to alter, improve or enhance the particular behavior. can provide feedback and try different strategies, interventions with different students. So as a teacher, you need to keep a track of that particular behavior. You need to monitor the behavior. And this can be also used for teacher self and program evaluation. Self evaluation, because teachers sometimes may try interventions, you see, to change the student's behavior. So to determine whether these interventions are producing desired effect, so you must collect evidence about student behavior. Evidence not focused on individual student but on overall behavior of the class as a whole, as a reflection of the outcome of the teacher's approach in the classroom. So uh, let me conclude here that uh, from the this one uh, the from this session, it is now evident that assessment of affective behavior is not pertaining to student learning in cognitive and psychomotor domain alone, but also teachers' own performance in the classroom. So assessment of behavior using rating scale is applicable to wide range of situations, purposes, like assessing or diagnosing the problem of the student, teachers, assessing the social behavior of student in the classroom and outside the class, situation like playgrounds, library, canteen, etc. So let us join hands, and every teacher must prepare a behavior scale and must keep a track of the student behavior. और ये जो है internal assessment का part आप उसको बना सकते हैं. Now I stop here and I invite any queries, and if you want to contribute, you want to add, you want to share your experiences in regard to measurement of affective domain, you are welcome. Yes.
Hello.
Good
Good
morning,
morning,
sir.
ma'am.
Good morning, sir.
हाँ जी मैम, बोलिए मैम.
Hanji, sir. Sir, I just wanted to make an observation. I was just trying to, think that we can connect affective domain with emotional intelligence. The fact that as educators, we need to display emotional intelligence while we are dealing with young, impressionable students. And also at the same time, uh, in this day and age, I think we've all been talking about how we need to make our children, make our students well rounded. So they don't have to work only on the intelligence quotient, but emotional quotient is also extremely
Very right.
important to
Very right, Dr.
kind
Seema.
of
So if you,
catapult themselves high in their career and also kind of sustain themselves there
correct,
for a long period of time.
correct. So it is not only the intelligence, it is very important.
Yeah.
Emotional quotient is very important in today's
Yes.
context. So if you have emotional quotient questionnaire, you can
Hmm.
definitely use it. But that is
Yeah.
self-report inventory. But here you
Right.
are observing the behavior of the student in the classroom.
Right. I
So this
did
is
this
slightly
exercise
different.
in one of my classes, sir, wherein we were teaching emotional intelligence in one of our classes. So I
This
did,
is
ask him a few questions pertaining to that. Say, for
हाँ
instance, while you are playing, one of you gets injured. What are you going to do? Are you going to rush him to the hospital? Are you going to just continue playing? These kind of things. Just to test on how
हम्म,
do they react to situations? Do they tackle them with logic, with emotion? So these kind of questions also help them to understand a situation well, appreciate, the response that they need to give in that situation.
हाँ जी हाँ जी.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you for a wonderful lecture, sir.
Thank you, Ji. So any other question? Any other participant?
Hello.
हाँ जी, Nadeem.
Yes, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Sir, actually, the same question I want to ask, which I asked by Dr. Seema.
Ma'am, your voice is not very much clear. Can
Okay,
you
okay.
write in the chat box? Because आपकी वहाँ echo आ रही है कुछ. We are not
Yes,
able
sir.
to hear you properly.
Yes, sir. Now it's okay.
नहीं,
Is it okay, sir?
अभी भी not clear. Voice is not clear.
Okay. Okay, sir. I will write in the chat box, sir. Okay, sir.
या तो आपका थ्रोट में कोई प्रॉब्लम है या आपके जो है माइक में कोई प्रॉब्लम है.
Okay, sir. I will write in the chat box.
हाँ हाँ.
Okay, sir.
आप में से एक कल रिक्वेस्ट की थी कोई सेशनल क्वेश्चन पेपर और जो फाइनल क्वेश्चन पेपर प्लीज email to Dr. P.K. Tulsi.
Sir, I've already mailed my
Okay.
session question
To
paper.
Dr. P.K. Tulsi because she
Yes,
will
I've done
have
it.
another session today in the afternoon, that is setting of question paper, balanced
Right.
question paper and designing the marking scheme.
So I've done that already.
Okay, sir. Okay, ma'am. So अभी किसी ने कुछ नहीं लिखा. Okay, then if we don't have any query or nothing you want to add, so we break for tea. We'll start the next session at 11:30. That session will be by Professor Pramod Kumar Singla, who is Associate Professor in the Department of Education and Education Management. And he will share his experiences about measuring student performance in practical and project work. Because we are giving project to the student, we are also conducting practical in the laboratory and workshops. And what should be the criteria of evaluating student performance and what are the do's and don'ts. So he will be engaging this session. So thank you very much. So please remain connected. Don't go away. Okay, we'll start the next session exactly at 11:30 so that it finishes at 1:45. Thank you very much.